Yeah, it's another very interesting time tumekutana tena. My name is Dr. Mlelwa na leo tunaenda kuendelea na discussion yetu ya mada ya cytology. Kama ambavyo tuliishia kwenye kipindi kilichopita, tuliishia kwenye kipengele cha history of a cell to discuss kidogo sana. Ile ilikuwa tu ni kama tunaanza kudiscuss cytology. Kwa hiyo naweza nikatumia lugha kwamba cytology bado hatujaianza, and even in this session we just be discussing regarding what is common in all cells. Basically ni kwamba kuna vitu ambavyo kwenye seli zote vitu hivyo vinakuepo. Na kumbuka tunavyo discuss ku cytology tunakuwa tunazungumzia seli ambayo ni basic unit of structure and function of all living organism. Kwa hiyo all living organism they contain cell except virus, ambao virus wao wako in between. Actually they are in between the living and non-living organism. We cannot say actually viruses they are living organism. They act as living organism when they are within the body of host, but when they are outside of the body of host they are non-living. Kwa hiyo we cannot regard virus kama ni living organism 100%. Kwa hiyo every living organism ranging from bacterium, when you move from bacterium we are moving to protoctista, and then from there protoctista then to move kwenda kwenye fungi, tenda kwenye plantae na kwenye animalia, because we have 5 kingdoms of living organisms. We have the kingdom Monella, which are bacteriums. Then we have kingdom Protoctista, which consists of several mixture of organisms which are resembling fungi, resembling fungus, resembling fungi, resembling plantae, and resembling animals. But from there we are moving into fungus, which are fungi, and then plantae, and finally animalia. So we can say Monella, which are bacterium, they are Protoctista. They are actually, they are not, I don't mean Protoctista, they are, we have a eukaryotic and a prokaryotic cell. So Monellans, they are prokaryotes. Kiujumla, Monella, kingdom Monella, they are prokaryotes. Ni kingdom ambayo imetengenezwa na prokaryotic cell. But when you are moving to kingdom Protoctista ni kingdom ambayo ni eukaryotic organism. And actually ni eukaryotic organism ambayo ni mixture of organism which resemble fungi, organism which resemble fungus, and organism which resemble fungus, organism which resemble plantae, and organism which resemble animalia. Now, all of these 5 kingdom of living organism, they contain some characteristics which are common in all of these 5 kingdoms. And in all of these 5 kingdoms, they contain cells which have similar characteristics. And that's why when we are discussing here, I would like to be together with you, and I would like you to understand that what are the common things in all of these groups of living organisms. What do we expect to see in all of these groups? Now, when we are talking what is common in all cells, we are saying that although bacterium seem much different than a mold, tukizungumzia bacterium ni prokaryotic cell, and then tukaja kuzungumzia mold ni fungus. Kwa hiyo in terms of the appearance or in terms of their structure, they look very different. Yani zinaonekana ni vitu ambavyo vinatofautiana sana. So ni kazi ngumu kusema the structure for a bacterium, the cell structure for a bacterium, or the basic cellular parts of a bacterium and the basic cellular part of a mold will be the same. Ni kazi ngumu kwa sababu somebody could expect that the basic cellular parts of a bacterium and the basic cellular parts of a mold, they could be quite different. But vitu vinavyokuwa vinaonekana ni kwamba huyu yuko group nyingine huku, huyu yuko group nyingine huku, but their structure they resemble. There are things which resemble. So although bacterium seems much different than a mold, and a tree, tukiuzungumzia mti, seems very different from human. Yani ukazungumzia mti, somebody unaweza kaanza kumwambia kwamba seli ya mti imefanana na seli ya binadamu, kwamba kuna vitu vina resemble, inakuwa ni ngumu sana mtu kukuelewa. But actually tukizungumzia cell, a cell is the basic unit or the basic structural and functionality of all cells. Kwa hiyo all cells, they will be having a certain kind of similarity, and that's what we are going to discuss in this session. Now, inside the cells of all these organisms, many things, they are very much the same. Now this argues that all living things on earth, they are related and they are descended from a common ancestor. Kwa hiyo kufanana kwa seli, kile kitendo cha seli kuwa zinafanana, kuwa na baadhi ya maeneo ya seli ambayo yanafanana, au kuwa na baadhi ya components of the cell which are similar, it reveals or it gives us evidence that all living organisms, they were evolved from the same origin, kwamba organism wote walitoka katika origin moja inayofanana, na ndio maana they have a certain kind of similarity, or they have a certain kind of resemblance. Kwa hiyo that's what I can say, kwamba kufanana kwa seli kunatupa evidence kwamba these organisms, they had the same origin, au kuna eneo ambalo walikuwa wamefanana, ndio maana kuna vitu wanakuwa wanafanana nao. Akisema ni kwamba this is called the theory of universal common descent. Theory of universal common descent. Now consider the following similarity between the cells of different organisms. We'll be discussing just 5 basic similarity between all cells, and we can't discuss actually regarding more similarity because hatuwezi tukafananisha vitu vingi zaidi. We just be comparing some few things or some basic factors which are very common in all cells. So we'll be comparing just these 5 basic similarity. The first thing which is similar in all cell is regarding the DNA, which is the storage of genetic material. Tukizungumzia DNA kwenye form 4 biology umesoma DNA ni deoxyribonucleic acid, deoxyribonucleic acid. So D, it is deoxyribonucleic, and then D is deoxyribo, and N is nucleic, and then A is acid. All living things, they use DNA for their genetic material, or we can say all cells, they use DNA as their genetic material. Now, kama nilivyokuambia kwamba DNA ni deoxyribonucleic acid, na kazi yake ni storage of genetic material au storage of information, the transfer of genetic information from one generation to another. Umesoma from 4 genetics, na umesoma kwamba kazi ya DNA huwa inachukua vinasaba, tunaita kwa Kiswahili vinasaba, inachukua genes, kwa Kiingereza ni genes, kwa Kiswahili ni vinasaba. So it takes genes from one generation to another. It takes genes from a parent to the offspring. Hypothetically speaking, there are dozens of molecules that could function as respiratory, repository of genetic information. Kuna molecule nyingi sana ndani ya seli, nyingi sana. Tukizungumzia molecules ambazo ziko within the cell, we discuss regarding biochemistry in the next chapter. Lakini hata hivyo biochemistry, bado biochemistry ya level yetu, tuna discuss vitu vichache. We have a lot of molecules in the cell. So a cell ingeweza kuwa na choice ya kutumia several molecules kama storage of genetic information. Why every cell imetumia DNA? That's just the similarity. Kwamba hypothetically speaking, there are dozens of molecules that could be function as a repository of genetic information. In fact, proteins and sugar might have been better choice than DNA. Protein na sukari ambazo ni sugar zingeweza kuwa ni better choice kuliko DNA, since they would allow much more information. They would allow much more information stored in the same size molecule. Kwa sababu tukizungumzia protein, they actually larger molecules, they are huge molecules, and sometimes they could allow the story of more molecule, more information in the same molecule. However, every living cell stores their genetic information in the form of chromosomes made up of DNA. Kwa hiyo cells, they are actually storing information in the form of chromosomes, ambazo actually all chromosomes, they are made up of DNA. Now the reason why DNA is the genetic material and not the protein or carbohydrate, they are not discussed in this chapter. They will be discussed in the genetics chapter ambao tunaisoma form 6. Tukifika kwenye genetics tutasoma why DNA is preferred as the genetic material and not protein or carbohydrate, and we will be discussing regarding the evidences, what evidence and who are the scientists who performed the experiment to prove that genetic DNA is the genetic material and not protein or carbohydrate. Now the reason why DNA is genetic material and not protein or carbohydrate will be given later in the genetics topic. Actually, we are talking regarding the thermal stability of DNA and regarding the issues of unreactivity of DNA, because DNA is not unreactive as compared to protein and carbohydrate. So based on the thermal stability of DNA, it can be stable hata kama temperature ukaiongeza sana, temperature ambayo protein or even carbohydrate can be destructed, DNA will still be stable. These are some of the few reasons why DNA is preferred the genetic material, because even when you will heat it up to a higher temperature, it will not be destroyed due to its thermal stability and even the chemical stability of DNA due to the structure of deoxyribose sugar, the way ambayo tunaenda kuisoma kwa genetics, je ikoje, ina structure gani, and that structure how it serves chemically kuweza kuifanya DNA iwe stable. Now in addition, all living things, they use the same 4 nucleotide as the building block of DNA. So the nucleotide could be built in almost infinite number of ways. We actually have a lot of organic bases. We don't only have 4. We're going to have four organic bases: the cytosine, the guanine, thiamine, and the adenine. But we have a lot of organic bases. We don't have only those 4. Lakini kwa nini the most known they are 4? Because they are used as the building block of DNA. Zinatumika kujenga DNA, na zikitumika kujenga DNA is a very important molecule which we must discuss in terms of genetics or in terms of inheritance of characteristics from parent to offspring. So that's the first similarity between all cells, and you can see here we have the molecule of RNA, and here is the DNA. DNA actually is the basic genetic material, but actually the RNA is the accessory genetic material. Inatumika kama genetic material, but actually it doesn't takes information from generation to generation. The DNA takes information from generation to generation, but RNA takes information maybe from cell to cell, or it can be used to transfer information from the nucleus to the cytoplasm. Even if it is used just temporarily to take information from the nucleus to cytoplasm, but it is still necessary. The cell cannot function in absence of RNA. Let's jump to the next point, which is all cells convert chemical energy in a similar way. Actually, in order for organism to sustain life, lazima awe na uwezo wa kuwa na energy. Ukiniona mimi naongea hivi, it's because I have energy. Nimetoka kula sio muda, so nime consume starch, and then lazima ile starch finally ikawe converted kwenda kwenye nini sasa? All cell they convert energy into ATP. ATP acted the temporary energy storage in all cells. Now what is the secret with ATP until yani mpaka imetumika? Why is ATP? Why it's ATP? Or why it's mitochondria? I don't know, but what I know is that all cells they convert chemical energy in a similar way. So all cells they are able to perform what we call the respiration, and if a cell is able to use oxygen, it will contain mitochondria for the case of aerobic respiration. But if it's not able to respire aerobically, it will respire anaerobically, it will respire in absence of oxygen. Like the important thing is regarding the presence of ATP as the energy carrier of all cells, and it carries energy in all cells. Kwa hiyo kitu cha muhimu hapo kumbuka ni presence of ATP in all cells. Now the energy that reaches the planet from the sun could be harvested in almost infinite number of ways. However, the process and the enzymes for the photosynthesis ina convert energy from the sun into the plant which we feed. Si tunakula ugali, tunakula mchele, tunakula wali Wali is the result of conversion of energy from the sun, ambayo ilifanywa na nani? Na rice plant. Now, however, the process and the enzymes for the photosynthesis, they are strikingly similar among all photosynthetic cells. So if you just do investigation za kujaribu kukagua, all photosynthetic cells, they will be seen to use the same pigment and even the same enzymes to do what? Photosynthesis. Now, from cyanobacteria and the plankton to oak tree and the lily pad, all of these, they use the same enzymes for photosynthesis. Kwa mfano, you can see image ambazo za kuwepo uko mbele ambazo kuna figure number, actually sio number 14, it's figure number ngapi? Figure number cyanobacteria, it's 1.4a. This should be read as 1.4a. Figure 1.4a, b and c. 1.4a, look at this is cyanobacteria. Unaona pigment ambayo anatumia cyanobacteria, pigment anayotumia lily pad, yani manyasha kwenye maji, na pigment anaenda kutumia oak tree ni pigment moja. You can't believe the appearance look very different. Ukizungumzia hii cyanobacteria, it is microscopic, hauwezi kuiona kwa jicho, lakini pigment inayotumia kwa photosynthesis na pigment inayotumia majani ya kwenye maji na pigment inayokuja kutumia mti is the same. You see, that is the similarity. And even the process now of utilizing that energy in the cell to get ATP, kwanza ni nafanana, lakini pia hata ATP yenyewe nafanana. Now similarly, all cell consume macromolecules. All cell consume macromolecules and convert the energy in a astonishingly similar way. Namna ambayo ina convert cells na convert energy inakuwa inafanana sana. The enzymes of glycolysis, the process of breaking down glucose, they are shared among all living cells. In addition, angalia, all cells they make use of ATPs, inatumia ATP molecule and they are a general occurrence for transferring energy in its many chemical reaction. Kwa seli zote zinatumia ATP katika many chemical reaction kama njia convert energy. There are literally thousands of molecules that could be used for this purpose, including many that would be functioning more efficient than ATP. The chemical reaction of energy conversion are remarkably similar in all cells on the earth. Kwa hiyo hii ni moja kati ya mfanano ambao seli zinakuwa nao, zinafanana sana katika the way ambao zina convert energy. Natoa explanation nyingi sana, lakini let's move to the third point, which is the genetic code is universal. Cells zote zinatumia genetic code zile. Genetic code is universal. Tena kusoma katika genetics ni kwamba kuna kitu katika genetics tunasema tunaita protein synthesis. Actually ni kitendo cha kutengeneza protein. Unapotengeneza protein huwa kuna kitu nakita genetic code. Genetic code ni zinakuwa ni bases tatu ambazo zina code for one amino acid. Now not only do all living things store their genetic information using this molecule, even the code for reading the information is identical as well. Kwa hiyo taarifa zinazotoka kwenye DNA kwenda kwenye RNA kwa all living organism, they actually zinafanana sana. For example, in a given DNA sequence, cytosine, thymine, cytosine, CTC codes for amino acid leucine. Katika DNA CTC, cytosine, thymine, cytosine ina code for amino acid leucine. Utakuta for many living organism, the code CTC, cytosine, thymine, cytosine will code for leucine for many living organism. Now this is true in every living cell from bacterium to humans. Now there is no reason why this would have to be true. Hakuna reason kwamba kwa nini kitu hichi ni cha kweli, lakini moja kati ya kitu ni kwamba nadhani ilikuwa ni kuepusha complications. Sasa unaweza kuuliza nani alitaka kuepusha complications? Sijajua kama ni dear God mwenyewe au la. In genetic code, 3 of the DNA nucleotide code for one amino acid, and yet all life uses exactly the same code. And all living organisms, they uses exactly the same code. There are a couple of exceptions, but these they are very rare. Ambazo huwa ni economical reasons. Some of the living organisms they use their own code in order to just to behave differently from others. Na wenda sometime wanafanya hivyo ili kuweza kusave, kwa sababu wanaweza kawa wanaingiza code ambayo haikuwa ina code for that amino acid. Now this common feature of all life is what allows us to insert genes from one species into another and have those genes still work properly. Kwa mfano, There are sometimes issues ambazo unakuta kongosho imekufa kwa binadamu, wana uwezo wa kuingiza genes ambazo zitapelekea production of insulin. Hasa they take those genes maybe from pig, wanaweza kuchukua zile genes kutoka kwenye nguruwe. Now you can ask, hizi genes inachukuliaje kwenye nguruwe and then wanazipeleka labda kwenye bacteria ku clone. Sometimes they don't insert gene, lakini wanatengeneza insulin. Kwa hiyo isikia wagonjwa wa kisukari wanaingiziwa insulin, ile insulin inatengenezwa kwenye bacteria. Hasa how comes a gene or insulin hormone from bacteria to function in human beings? Because the genes of bacteria, kwanza ile gene wanaichukua kwa mnyama fulani, wanaichukua wanaiclone, wanaichukua ile wanaenda kuweka kwa bacteria. Bacteria na produce insulin, akisha produce insulin wanaichukua ile insulin wanaenda kuweka kwa nani? Kwa binadamu. Hiyo mechanism yote inafanyika because those things they can interact and they can be used interchangeably. For example, it would be extremely expensive to harvest insulin from human donor. Ingekuwa ni gharama sana kupata insulin kutoka kwa nani? Kwa binadamu, in order to treat patients with diabetes, kuweza kuwatibu wagonjwa wenye kisukari. Instead, scientists have engineered, wamefanya engineering, they have engineered bacteria that contain human insulin gene. Wameengineer bacteria ambao wana human insulin gene. Now the gene is read and interpreted in the same way in both cells. Ile gene inavyotafsiriwa kwa bacteria na kwa binadamu, it is the same, exactly the same. So the bacteria build a perfectly functional human insulin molecule. Bacteria anatengeneza insulin ambayo ina uwezo wa kufanya kazi kwa binadamu vizuri kabisa. Now this is the molecule of ATP. You can see it's universal in all cells ambazo zina use ATP. This is the molecule of ATP. This is the piece of adenosine. This is the piece of ribose sugar, and this is phosphate. So adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine, because our DNA is not DNA, it's ATP. Adenine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine is adenosine, and then it's adenine plus ribose. We get adenosine. Adenine plus ribose. Adenine plus ribose. We get the same thing, which is adenosine. Then triphosphate. So this adenine, this ribose, exactly together we get adenosine, and then adenosine triphosphate. If we could have one phosphate, it could be adenosine monophosphate, then adenosine diphosphate, and adenosine triphosphate. This is the genetic code and the mechanism of protein synthesis, which will be discussed much in topic of genetics. Even if our mechanism ipo, unaweza kuona namna ambavyo hizi transfer RNAs inakuja hapa ni the joining of amino acid. The mechanism will be discussed much in topic of genetics. Lakini similarity number 4, all ribosomes, they are structurally and functionally similar. Ribosomes are cells zote, ranging from prokaryotic cell to eukaryotic cell, ranging from bacteria, then moving to protoctista, moving to fungi, plantae, and animalia. All these living organisms, they contain ribosomes which are structural and functionally similar. Tukizungumzia structure ya ribosome huwa imetengenezwa na segment mbili, the smaller subunit and the larger subunit. Na ribosomes zote zimetengenezwa na hizo subunit mbili, the smaller one and the larger one. And even the mechanism of functioning of ribosome inafanana. Ndio hiyo hapa ambayo imeonyeshwa hapa katika diagram. This is the mechanism of functioning of ribosome. Actually this organelle which you see here, it is the ribosome. This is the large subunit of ribosome. You can see the top one. This is the large subunit of ribosome. And this, the bottom one, is the smaller subunit of ribosome. This is the messenger RNA molecule. Because the function of ribosome, kazi yake ni kufanya a protein synthesis. Now this messenger RNA molecule, it bind in the smaller subunit of ribosome. Ina bind katika smaller subunit of ribosome, na kazi yake ribosome ni kuzitafsiri codons. You can start asking, what are the codons again? Codons actually, when we talk of codons actually they're very easy to understand them. Codons huwa ni hizi unazoziona hapa zimeandikwa hizi herufi GAAAUC. Hizi ni codons. Na kazi ya codon inakuwa inafanya kazi ya kuweza, kwa mfano ukiona hii CCC imestand for a certain amino acid, kwa hiyo inachukua amino acid from cytoplasm to bring it in the ribosome in order to facilitate the process of protein synthesis. Sasa turudi hapa niseme kwamba Ribosome zote zinafanana, zina subunit mbili, the larger one and the smaller one. Structures called ribosomes, they are responsible for interpreting the genetic code of DNA received in the form of messenger RNA and building protein according to the code. Now, ribosomes of all prokaryotes, they are almost exactly the same, and so are the ribosomes of all eukaryotes. Now, between eukaryotes and the prokaryotes, although there are differences, the overall structure is remarkably similar. Kuna difference ndogo sana kati ya eukaryote na prokaryote ribosome, lakini haiko kwenye structure ribosome yenyewe, iko tu kwenye organization. Katika prokaryote tunaweza kukuta ribosome ni kama zimeungana fulani, zimetengeneza kama shanga fulani hivi, yani kama shanga ambavyo unaweza kwa una kama zile rosari za Wakatoliki ambazo zinakuwa zinatengeneza kama shanga. Now all ribosomes, they have two parts, a large subunit and a smaller subunit. They operate in nearly identical mechanism, and the final similarity between all cells is regarding the structure of membranes. Tukizungumzia biological membranes, we don't only talk regarding the cell surface membrane, which is most popular. Hatuzungumzii tu cell surface membrane, tunazungumzia membrane zote kuanzia cell surface membrane, lakini pia within the cell we may have a lot of membrane. Kwa mfano kuna nuclear membrane, kuna mitochondrial membrane, kuna chloroplast membrane, kuna zile smooth endoplasmic reticulum, then rough endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, the microtubules. Yani kuna a lot of membrane. Unaona kuna vitu kama microbodies, all of those they are surrounded by membrane. Kwa tukizungumzia all biological membrane they are similar. We don't only talk regarding the cell surface membrane. Usiko kaa chini ukajua hapa ninazungumzia tu cell surface membrane and then you can start asking yourself, cell surface membrane, are they similar? No, we are not actually talking regarding the cell surface membrane. Lakini pia hapa ninazungumzia regarding the basic structure. Hatuzungumzii the detail of every part of the membrane. Actually every membrane itakuwa ina adaptation zake. Yani kwa mfano mitochondrial membrane itatofautiana chloroplast membrane kwa sababu kazi ambayo mitochondria ina perform na kazi ambayo chloroplast ina perform zinatofautiana. Lakini basic structure, yani kwa mfano tukizungumzia ghorofa lazima iwe na msingi, basi utasema msingi wa all membrane, the basic structure of all membrane, it is similar, ranging from the membrane of bacterium to the membrane of eukaryote, the high eukaryote, for example human being. If you investigate the structure or the appearance of the basic structure of a bacterium cell membrane or bacterium membrane, and then you are coming to investigate the membrane of human being, you will see the appearance is similar, zinaonekana zinafanana. Na mfanano wake uko wapi? Mfanano wake upo katika phospholipid bilayer, kwamba all membrane they are made up of phospholipid bilayer. When you are talking of phospholipid bilayer, manake the cell membrane actually they are made up of layers of phospholipid. Now let's say I take this bottle as my phospholipid. Actually it can't represent phospholipid in a very good way. Now let's say phospholipid actually it had the two parts, the head and tail. Now let's say this is the head of phospholipid and then this is the tail of phospholipid. Let's say this is phospholipid. Now these phospholipid they arrange themselves in a line. They are arranging in a line like this way. So let's say we could have another phospholipid molecule here, phospholipid, they are arranged in line. And then kama kuna head sawa, huku kuna head, huku chini kuna tail. Kuna head, kuna tail. Kinachofanyika ni kwamba kuna layer hii ya kwanza, huku head, huku tail. Halafu kuna layer nyingine ambazo zimegeukiana. Kwa layer nyingine maana phospholipid zitakaa hivi, tail zitakuwa ndani, head nje. Kwa head za phospholipid zinakuwa nje because the heads of phospholipid they actually tunaita they are hydrophilic, they are water loving, but the tails they are hydrophobic. Tenda kusoma huko mbele tutakapokuwa tunasoma kuhusu the structure of cell membrane au chemistry of cell membrane, tutaona the hydrophilic component of cell membrane and the hydrophobic component of cell membrane. Kwa hiyo all cells actually they are made of phospholipid bilayer. They are bilayer. They are like this way. I'm not sure if you see these hands. They are phospholipid bilayer. Now there is one phospholipid layer here, and then there is another phospholipid layer. One phospholipid layer. So we have two phospholipid layers, two phospholipid layers like this way. Here and here, the two phospholipid layer, it is the basic structure of all cell membrane, you know, how all cell membrane you will know in your life paka unakuja kufa. So from the plasma membrane of bacteria to the nuclear envelope of animals, because the bacteria, they don't have nucleus, you see. Plasma membrane of bacteria had the nuclear envelope of animal, the watertight membrane that establish separate compartment within and around all cells, they extremely similar. Ndio maana hapa wamesema within, yani hata ikiwa ndani ya cell, within and around all living cells, they are extremely similar. Now this basic structure is composed of phospholipid bilayer. Hiyo basic structure imetengenezwa na phospholipid bilayer. On the other hand, this is not surprising because the properties of phospholipid, they are unique. Properties of phospholipid, they are unique. On the other hand, starting with a very basic chemical building blocks like those found on Ilia Earth, many possible membrane forming molecule could have emerged. Tungeweza kutengeneza molecule nyingi, tuna membrane nyingi, lakini hizi pia ni evidence ambazo zinaonyesha all cells they have the same origin. Kama ukaulizwa kwamba what shows that all cells they have the same origin, you can use these facts. Now the fact that all life uses the same basic membrane structure is strong evidence that once membrane first evolved, kwamba kulikuwa kuna membrane moja ambayo baadaye kaanza kuevolve kutengeneza membrane nyingine. They were passed to descendants with literal changing along the way. Now this is the phospholipid layer which I was explaining by that time. This is the phospholipid layer actually. I can change my color here and change the thickness so that to make us look well at this diagram. Now looking at this diagram, actually you will see there is one side of the layer, which is this one, and then there is another side of the layer. This might be, let's say, the outer side of the cell. It might be the outer side of the cell, and then this might be the inner side of the cell. And all cells, if it is the cell, if it is the organelle, this might be the outside of the organelle, and this is the inner side of the organelle. This marks the end of our discussion regarding the similarity of all cells. Na tumediscuss vitu vingi. Cha kwanza tumediscuss kuhusu DNA, which is the genetic material, ambao tumesema DNA ya cell zote inafanana. Lakini kitu cha pili tumediscuss kuhusu energy, jinsi ambavyo cells zinapata energy regarding ATP. Cha tatu tumediscuss kuhusu genetic code. Tumediscuss kuhusu genetic code. Cha nne tumesema ribosome, na cha tano ni membrane. Narudia tena, cha kwanza tumediscuss kuhusu DNA, cha pili tumediscuss kuhusu energy, cha tatu ni genetic code, cha nne ni ribosomes, na cha tano ni all membranes. In the coming session, start discussing regarding the concept of cytology. Don't forget to visit my next session. I am sure that you will get a lot of advantages ili kuweza kuendelea na your advanced biology studies and finally to perform well in your final exams. Thank you, and later we wish you nice studies. We'll meet in the coming session. Thank you.